PREPS.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Big Country Preps Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, our guest is Brockhead football coach Billy Mathis.
Yeah, and Coach Mathis, who has his team within a win of their second straight state championship game appearance. So the Brock's coming off a big 30-19 win over district rival Whitesboro. For their 10th win in a row, have Malakoff this week at Frisco, and just, what a job that he's done. They kind of had to overcome some early struggles against a really tough non-district schedule, lost their first 4 games, and then just came roaring back like we thought they would, and now they're playing their best football of the year. So it's going to be exciting to talk to Coach Mathis about kind of, that process, getting his team to this point, and kind of how he feels about this matchup coming up this week against Malakoff.
And if last week's win over Whitesboro was any indication, they're playing their best football of the year because they handled a very good Whitesboro football team that gave them all they wanted during district play.
Yeah, and I mean, this game was they won that 30-19, and it was a tough game into the fourth quarter, neck and neck, but they really at the end of the game kind of asserted their will, made a couple of big plays offensively, and then made a couple of big plays on defense, and kind of got that 2-score win. But to hold that Whitesboro offense to 19 points and come out with a 2-score win over that team, which we've been talking all year about, it's a very, very good football team. Says a lot about this team, and they got another big test this week against Malakoff. Should be fun to see how that turns out.
All right, and with that, we're going to take a look at some results from last week and the matchups that they bring about this week and next week. In the case of 6-man, we'll start off at the 6-man level. Dan, Benjamin eliminated Whit-Harrell 76-31. They advanced to face Lorain in a historic matchup among Big Country 6-man football teams. Lorain having eliminated Oakwood 86-38.
Yeah, that matchup's set for 11 a.m. December 14th at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. The interesting thing I thought about that one was that how similarly both those teams kind of handled their state semifinals opponents. You mentioned the Benjamin beating Whit-Harrell by 45, Lorain handling a really good Oakwood team. I think everybody kind of feels that Benjamin is the clear favorite, and I think they've kind of earned that spot. But this Lorain team has really had a special season at 13-1, playing really good football coming into this one, having beaten some really quality teams to get here. When you look at what they did, shutting out Richland Springs, beating Cherokee, a really good Cherokee team, 24-6, and then handling Oakwood the way they did. So an intriguing matchup. I think a lot of people think that this Benjamin team is just a little bit too strong, and they may well be right. But if you're Lorain, I think you kind of like the spot you're coming in as kind of a clear underdog and feeling pretty good about the way you're playing.
All right. Also surviving and reaching the state championship game is Westbrook. Westbrook just keeps rolling right along. They defeated a very good Happy team 40-30 last week, and they advanced to Arlington. They'll be off this week, as will Lorain and Benjamin. There's a week break before 6-man plays their state championship games next week.
And that game, which will feature 13-1 Westbrook versus undefeated 14-0 Abbott, will be 2 p.m. December 14th at AT&T Stadium. But what a season Westbrook's had. You mentioned it. I mean, to go through the playoffs the way they have, a dominant run really to this point. They finally got challenged by Happy and were able to meet that and get the hard-fought win in the semifinals to take on an Abbott team that knocked out a really good Gordon team earlier in the playoffs. So this should be a really fun matchup between two very good football teams playing very well at this time of year, and that's what you expect when you get into a state championship game. But these are two really, really high-quality football teams.
It's really been about a 3 or 4 year run for Westbrook. They've just come out of nowhere. They were struggling for a long time. They weren't good. Very good in much, and now all of a sudden they're good in just about everything.
Yeah,
it's been a great 3 or 4 year run for that high school.
And the cool thing about it too is it's not just a good run for the boys. The girls have had a great run too, with the girls basketball team being so good for a couple of years there. It's really neat when that happens, because a lot of times you'll get like a group of boys or a group of girls that come through that have a good run, but it's kind of rare when you have both, which we've seen with Westbrook and Hermley in recent years, which that's been really cool to see.
All right, now we're going to move up to Class 2A D2, where the Albany Lions are still representing the area. They eliminated Collinsville last week in the regional championship, Region 2 championship, 66-34. And some people are saying this is the best Albany team ever, and they might be right. We'll see.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about that one is that final score, 66-34, is really not indicative of just how dominant that effort was by Albany. If you look at the first half stats, I mean, you're going to be hard pressed to find a game, ever more dominant than what Albany was in that first half. So Albany playing exceptionally well. That sets up a state semifinal matchup between the Lions, 12-2, and kind of an upstart new home team, 13-1, coached by former Winters offensive coordinator John Ward. That game scheduled for 7 p.m. Thursday in Sweetwater at the Mustang Bowl. Should be a fun matchup, but I'm afraid at this point, the way Albany's playing, I'm not sure there's a team. Until they get to the state championship game against potentially maybe a Mart that's going to play with them, they're just playing at such a high level right now.
All right, now let's jump up to Class 2A D1, where the Holly Bearcats are still alive, eliminating Cisco, and an outstanding Cisco team, a great Cisco team, eliminating them 40-7 in dominant fashion. One of the most impressive performances I've seen at the 2A level by any team when you consider the opposition, 40-7.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of surprised people following that score. Because I think, especially when you look at that first matchup, it was so close. I think everybody was expecting a rematch of that, and Holly just took it to him from the start, really dominated them. So just a tremendous performance. That sets up a huge state semifinal matchup against undefeated Holly at 14-0 against undefeated Crawford at 14-0, 7 p.m. Thursday at Mineral Wells Ram Stadium. Should be a tremendous state semifinals matchup. Crawford knocked off a really, really strong Toller team last week, 14-7 to set this one up. That on paper looks like it should just be a slobber knocker, a great game between two really, really good football teams.
Yeah, they are two great teams. I'll tell you, if Crawford shut down Toller the way they did, that's an outstanding football team. But you know what? I think Holly is even better on the field than they are on paper.
Yeah, you might be right.
They're better. I'm telling you, Holly is better on the field than they are on paper. They look great on paper, but you get them on the field, they're even better. That's
they're
an
playing
incredibly good team.
Yeah, they're the last 2 weeks, really the last 3 weeks. Sonora is a really quality football team. They just manhandled them. Cisco, we know how good they are, just manhandled them. That sets up an interesting one this week. If they can, it'll be hard to do the same thing against Crawford, but if they can get through that one, it'll be fun to see them get back to the state championship game if they're able to.
All right. Aside from Cisco, we also had to say goodbye to the Wall Hawks last week, who fell 45-10 to. Let's be fair. It's just a monstrous Canadian team this year. But hats off to Wall, a great season by a great football team. And keep this in mind: they return 8-8 next year. They're going to be better offensively and defensively. This is going to be a team to watch next year for sure.
Yeah, no question. I think you hit the nail on the head. They ran into a Canadian team that is just really, really, really good. The interesting thing about that one, we talked about coming into this matchup, just the contrasting styles. You had Canadian, which is such a wide open offense, against Wall, which has just been dominant defensively all year long. Unfortunately for the Hawks, Canadian kind of won that matchup. We were able to kind of build a little bit of a cushion and kind of run away from them a little bit. But you're right. This Wall team will only be better next year and will only benefit from the experience gained during this playoff run.
All right, now we'll just touch on this one. So we're going to be talking a lot more about it here momentarily when Coach Mathis joins us. At the Class 3A D1 level, Region 1 championship, Brock over Whitesboro, 30-19.
And that win, Brock's second over a really strong Whitesboro team this season, sets up a state semifinals matchup with Malakoff, as we mentioned. Brock 10-4 against Malakoff 13-1. That game, 7 p.m. Thursday at Frisco's Ford Center at the Star. The interesting thing about this one is this is a rematch of the exact same matchup in the exact same round at the exact same site from 2018, a game I attended. The only other time Brock has played Malakoff, a game that Malakoff won 23-21, just an absolute thriller. And I'd expect this one to be a similarly competitive. This one should be a really good matchup as well.
Right. We also had to say goodbye to the Wiley Bulldogs, who capped just a tremendous season by giving Argyle everything it wanted in the Region 1 championship, Class 5A D2.
Yeah, they ended up falling 35-28, but that was a game they led 14-7 at half and really missed some opportunities. Had an opportunity to have an even bigger lead at halftime. They got stuffed once at the 1 yard line with the potential to score a touchdown, and they also had an interception near the goal line. So they had 2 drives into the red zone that they came away with nothing on. They still are able to get a late touchdown right before half to go up 14-7. And unfortunately, after that, Argyle was just able to kind of assert itself a little bit. I think Argyle was just a little bit stronger on the lines, particularly the defensive line. They've got two D1 players. Todd Van Poppel's son is one of their defensive linemen. He's going to play at Nebraska, just an outstanding player. And they have another defensive lineman who's headed to Boise State. And those two, that was kind of the story. Unfortunately, quarterback KJ Long was kind of on the run all game long. He was sacked 7 times, almost sacked a couple others where they got called for face mask penalties. But I think the story of this one was, I think the better team won. Argyle, unbeaten and top ranked, deserved to win that game. But I think the story of this one was that, we saw the same thing from Wiley in this game. We've seen from them all year long. This team absolutely does not quit, very resilient, finds a way to compete. And that's exactly what they did. They had Argyle on the ropes the entire game. We're kicking an onside kick at the very end to have an opportunity to go try to tie the game. And the funny thing in talking with both the players and coaches, they're like, we fully expected to get that onside kick and go down and score, because that's basically what they've been doing all year long. But unfortunately, the Bulldogs finally ran out of magic a little bit. But just what a season! 10-4, the final record. Did not lose a single game all year by more than one score. Just a tremendous season where they were just playing one entertaining game after another and really just fighting and battling against some really, really good teams, and just a great season that kind of put Wiley football back on the map, gets them to the region championship, and kind of puts Wiley back where they feel like they belong.
All right, before we bring Coach Mathis on, we need to thank some of our sponsors. We'll begin with For the Love of the Game Broadcasting and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is For the Love of the Game Broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give Rob a shot. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Call him at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And joining us now via Zoom, Brock head football coach Billy Mathis. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Nice do, by the way. I got to say that. Nice do.
I appreciate it. Last year, I just did the top, and we came up a little short. So this year I told the boys, hey, if we're playing in December again, I'll do my hair. But this time I went all the way, all in, and
that's good.
The back.
There you go. Yeah, you don't want those roots showing. That'd be hip.
That'd be too embarrassing.
Right. All right, Coach. First off, you've had a tough run through the state semifinals. You've had a couple of comeback wins back to back. Talk about those wins and what the keys were to overcome it.
We played two great football teams, Bushland and Whitesboro, both great kids. Historically, these last, of course, Bushland's been good every year. Whitesboro's been really good these last couple of years also. But, both great teams. I was proud of our guys for battling. In both games. Especially the Bushland game, we turned the ball over 3 times there in the first half. It makes it it makes it tough to go do that. This game against Whitesboro, same thing. Whitesboro just tough. 12-7 there at half. The message was the same at halftime. Guys, if we'll go out and keep playing, play for each other, play every down, don't worry about the scoreboard. Don't worry about anything, but worry about just playing play after play after play like it could be your last. Good things are going to happen. And, the boys are resilient. They're battle tested and came out and played 2 great second halves and, won both football games.
And Coach, you mentioned the resiliency. And I got to see the first Whitesboro matchup. Obviously, you saw that there. But this team has probably faced more adversity than any Brock football team has in a while. Just when you look at the start y'all got off to with the 4 losses against a really, really tough non-district schedule, and then just some of the tough positions y'all found yourselves in when you look at the Whitesboro game, the Paradise game in district, and then obviously the last 2 weeks. Just what are the keys to building a team that's so mentally tough that when they're in those situations they really thrive?
And it really starts with, the guys we have, right? All raised by great families, and, and it starts at home a lot of times with these guys, right? Of, parents that expect a great from their kids, expect them to do right, hold their kids accountable. And then I get them and, we go through all our off season, through track workouts, through all the stuff that you do to go get prepared for football season. Football games aren't won on Friday nights. They're won in the off season, right? And that's one of the truest statements in the world. We prepared a tough non-district schedule, and we knew it was going to be tough. Never in a million years that I think we'd be 0-4, right? But we were, and that was part of it. And as we went week to week, we lost games. We tried to build off of each loss. We went and watched video every Saturday morning and did all the stuff that we needed to do. And you'd rather teach and learn off of winning tapes, but that wasn't with the card that was dealt to us. So we keep battling, and the boys, they never gave up on us. They never questioned anything. They could see a lot of the games, played some good teams, but we shot ourselves in the foot more times than not. And if we cut out the mistakes, good things would happen. So as the year went on, of course, we played in a tough district. Whitesboro, outstanding team. Paradise, who was outstanding. We had, once we started the playoffs, I think seven of the teams that we played, including Godly, who we scrimmaged, were in the playoffs, and, a bunch of them were still playing in the third round. So, you try to go do all that, you try to simulate practice as much as possible, but you got to go and, you got to get the kids believing in you. You got to get the kids believing in your product, in your system. They got to believe in themselves. And, that's all built through the off season and through summer work, strength conditioning. But it's built through relationships also. Me and my coaching staff try to build great family relationships with these guys to where, we go out there and coach them hard. We can holler, scream at them. We love on them. But, we just go out and it's a family affair. The boys go out, no matter what happens, no matter what's thrown at us, they play their tails off for each other. They play their tails off for us coaches. They play their tails off for the town.
Coach, is it my imagination, or are you hitting your peak now? It seems to me you're playing your best football of the year right now.
Right now, and that's always the goal. You always want to go on that, on that vertical climb. It's always, if you're always getting better, you're getting worse, right? And that's the truth. And right now we're playing our absolute best football. Early in the year, we struggled with new guys. We lost 17 seniors, and you lose 17 seniors, that's a big loss. We only have 10 seniors this year, but those 10 seniors are outstanding. But right now, and it started really around the Paradise Whitesboro game in district, where we really started peaking and started really playing better, cutting out a lot of mistakes. But right now, yes, we are. I feel like we're playing our absolute best football that we've played in 2 years, honestly.
And one thing I thought that was really interesting about last week's game against Whitesboro is y'all didn't necessarily have kind of the running production that we've come to expect out of y'all. So you kind of had to find other ways to move the ball and score, and y'all did. Just how pleased were you? And what does that say about this team that if you are able to take that away, which very few teams have been able to, y'all can still find a way to win a game like that?
That's a big deal, just being a well-rounded team. You've got to be at this point in time. Whitesboro did a great job. Their front seven were as tough as anybody that we've played this year, and they were put everybody down there in the box, and we had to go other ways, and it's tough to go run. They have a lot of guys in there playing hard. Their D tackles, 280, 320 pounds, and those guys were, they were tough. But at the same time, I told our coaches, and we talked about it at halftime. I said, we got to stay with the run game. We got to keep going. We're getting 3-4 yards, and that's a tough thing to do, because a lot of times when you're used to breaking the big runs, and all of a sudden you're not having those big successful runs, but you are getting 2, 3, 4 yards at a time, and the kids' head, you got to tell them, hey, we're going to stay with it. We're going to keep doing it. But, we had to throw the football, and Tyler did a great job of that. We did a great job of protecting. Receivers ran great routes. So, got open against a, great secondary. So I was very proud of, our kids, but it's all about, preparation. It's all about, who are you and what you do, right? We want to run the football, but we throw the ball as well as anybody in the state also.
And along those lines, that leads into the next question. You mentioned Tyler Moody. I think the one thing that when you watch him play, whatever the sport is, he does on the baseball field too, you notice real quickly that he's about as competitive an individual as you'll ever see. Just how much is that kind of set the tone for the rest of the team to have a kid like that who just so badly hates to lose?
He is. He's super competitive, and you've got a lot of guys that that I've coached in a lot of years, and he's up there in the top 3 guys of being ultra competitive. And the guys know when the ball's in his hand, great things are going to happen. And, and Tyler's one of those guys, he's kind of like that wild Mustang. You can't go and, try to just halter him in the whole time, because he makes a lot of plays when he's moving around. And, I'm yelling, throw it away. And he throws it across his body for a touchdown, but at the same time, he's done that and thrown interceptions too. Tyler's one of those guys, when he comes off the field, right, he takes ownership of his mistakes. He said, Coach, that's my bad. Won't happen again. And he's great at shaking those things off. Right. He doesn't carry them on to the next play. He just gets mad at himself. And he goes out and says, hey, it's not going to happen again. And he goes out and, makes great plays. But having a quarterback back there that's like that, right? Because when he's on the sideline, man, he's screaming and hollering at the defense too, right? I mean, he studies both sides of the ball. He, practice, it doesn't matter. He runs scout team quarterback for us every week. And he's constantly trying to dice up our defense. And he's over there talking trash to the defense. He's ultimately the most competitive kid in the world. He is, but, we love him. And, I'm excited that, that he's our quarterback.
All right, Coach, this time of year, how much do you guys lean on tradition a little bit? Because you're playing all these tough teams and tough situations, a lot of adversity, and nobody wants to be the first Brock team to fail. So, I mean, how much do you lean on tradition around there?
Every day. I'll tell you, that was one of the craziest things, starting out 0-4, as the head coach, no Brock team has ever started out 0-4. No, not many Brock teams lost 4 games in, 2 or 3 years combined. Right. And, so, we spent a lot of time, leaning on tradition, from everything from the town, you go through our town right now, and as you pull in right there on 1189, there's hay bales everywhere. Right. And all those hay bales are, go Brock, battle tested. They've got so many slogans, for the kids that it's all around us all the time. You go through, you come up to the high school and you walk through, and there's those, I think there's 26, state championship monuments that are there lined in, for the first thing you see when you go in. You go out of our field house, there's the 2015 state championship monument sitting out there. So, we spend a lot of time, leaning on tradition. And you're right. The boys don't want to be the first Brock team to not go and do what Brock does. And that's go and win championships. And, we know we got a good chance this year, and, but we know we got a unbelievable Malakoff team that we got to go face this week. And they've been great at, staying focused, playing, each week and not looking ahead, so, that tradition of winning, that tradition of working hard, that tradition of being the toughest guys on the football field, they take it to heart, and they want to carry on those traditions.
And you may have just answered this question as well, but when you have a program like yours that has experienced that level of success, what is the challenge in terms of kind of avoiding complacency, or maybe even taking that success for granted? Because I mean, y'all, it's been so constant, every year where y'all expect to be playing this time of year. How do you kind of keep the guys, from realizing that, hey, this isn't something that just happens. You got to work and get there.
We do. We talk about stuff like that a lot, and we always try to bring, a sense of reality to what we're doing, and we talk about the world, and we talk about, things that are going on in the world, and we talk about, guys, we're lucky right now that we're one of the 4 teams left that are in our division, that are still playing. And there's people all across this world, kids that are your age that, are in war-torn countries, that don't have this opportunity. And, we try to make a big deal of, don't take this for granted. This doesn't happen every day. Be thankful, thank God every day you get an opportunity to do this, and just, the kids in the school, there's kids that are handicapped and stuff, that don't have this opportunity. So our kids have a good understanding of that and have a good feel of that. And, it goes back to, a lot of the kids being raised the way they are, parents, holding them accountable, parents that, let them know and make them work for everything they got. Don't just hand stuff out to them. So, but they're kids too. Right. And I think, a lot of times, most of the time it's usually the parents or the fans, that expect it more than anything, like, well, we'll show up to the 3rd round of playoffs. That's when it's going to get exciting, stuff like that. But, our kids do a great job of, keeping their minds wrapped around it. And they understand how lucky they are and that it doesn't just happen year in, year out without, dedication and hard work.
All right, Coach, last question. You've got a very dangerous Malakoff team up ahead, a lot of speed. What is your assessment of that bunch and how do you beat them? What are the keys?
Man, the key to me is, doing what you got to do every week. You got to win the line of scrimmage, right? We always talk about that. You got to go win the line of scrimmage. Their offensive line is big and athletic. Their defensive line is as fast and as powerful as any team that I've seen. Man, they're a scary football team. You talk about their speed, their team speed, from everybody from their quarterback to the receivers. They're all fast. Heck, their O-line and D-line are fast. And that's what they live on. They live on that speed. If we're going to go beat them, we got to control the ball. We can't have any turnovers, and we got to, get a turnover or two. Got to do a great job in the special teams game, and take opportunities when we get them. If we can get a turnover or two, I think that'll be a big deal. But, we can't miss blocks. We can't blow assignments and stuff that we've done in the past. We got to jump on them early and we got to stay on them because they can score from anywhere. They can go 90, at any point in any time. So, we got to keep them wrangled in. We've got to do a good job of bending and not break defensively, and get pressure on the quarterback when he does have to pass.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time and best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
And that was Brockhead football coach Billy Mathis. And again, the Eagles will be taking on an outstanding Malakoff team this Thursday in Frisco.
Yeah, obviously it's going to be a really interesting matchup. This is actually a rematch of a playoff game in the same round a few years back before Coach Mathis got there, a game that Malakoff won to go to state. So just a really interesting matchup and a great conversation. I think Coach Mathis has done a great job there, taking over a very successful program with really high expectations, and he's just kind of kept that train rolling despite, changing some things schematically. So it's been fun to see what they've been able to do and obviously fun to get to talk to him as well. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that Malakoff game, but I was glad to be able to get his input on that matchup.
All right. And with that, it's about time to wrap up the Big Country Preps Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we've got 3 separate subscription packages here at Big Country Preps. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock that price down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
We'd also like to remind you that if you ever see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. We have photo downloads available for $7, as well as some prints and keepsakes. So make sure you check those out. As you're scrolling through the site, you'll notice pretty quickly that we take a lot of photos from these games we're at. It's something we enjoy doing and something we're very proud of here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.